Welcome to RuralStrong, where we talk real challenges and bold solutions in rural economic development. I'm your host, Joe Barker. Let's get into it. This is Joe Barker, and this is RuralStrong, and we are broadcasting from the Southwest Tennessee Development District podcast studio in beautiful downtown Jackson, Tennessee. And we have a great guest today. We have Mary Sarver, and she is from the metropolis of Grandview, Texas, where she is Mayor Pro Tem and has a wealth of knowledge to share with us today. Mary, welcome to RuralStrong.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's our pleasure. And first of all, to educate people like me and our listeners across the country, tell us a little bit about Grandview, Texas.
Well, Grandview is a very small town south of the Fort Worth Metroplex, and we're off the main interstate of 35. We have been undeveloped for a while. We've gone through a big turn of events in the past 3 years. When I ran for council, we were becoming kind of a ghost town due to a government that wasn't favoring our city. And then we had a nice big council race, and therefore that's when I came out. And now we are the most fiscally responsible in all of Johnson County. We have a no new revenue rate. We've been increasing our police force, redoing our park, and are fixing our roads while being so fiscally responsible at the same time. We have an incredible council that governs well, and we love learning and being a part of a bigger picture, of the Fort Worth area.
Now, are you a native of Grandview, or did you relocate there?
I relocated about 10 years ago to Grandview, but just out of Fort Worth.
Okay, well, great. Well, tell us,
Texan.
That's right. That's right. And tell us a little bit, I have people say to me all the time, and we have a lot of small communities in Tennessee, is, we're just not big enough. We don't have enough revenue. We don't have enough assets to really make a difference. What do you tell those really small towns about how they can be successful?
Well, I have to tell you, as a citizen, I could not even fathom or comprehend that cities have so much to govern themselves with until I got into the municipal side of the council. And since then, it's very hard to govern a small city when you have to learn about municipalities first, where the funds come from, how government works at a municipal level. And then councils are ever changing, and mayors. So there's always new knowledge, and then knowledge that's from the good old boys, so to speak, and then those who seek the knowledge with experience. And the biggest thing I can offer in the rural development area, because that's exactly where we are. We were 1,300 census 3 years ago, and now we're sitting at 2,200 with about a future of 4,000 homes coming in the next 5 to 10 years. So funding and grant money and all of that is very difficult. And the best thing I can offer to all rural development citizens and the municipality and council is get some training. Every state has their own municipal league, and getting some training for your council gives you knowledge, and knowledge is power, and it helps you introduce yourselves to others that have had that experience that can help you gain that knowledge to get that funding for infrastructure and proper economic development.
Well, Mary, what has spurred the growth in Grandview?
Honestly, caring about my city, caring about my community, and because of my heart for that, and the council's heart, it's wanted us to want to learn more what's worked in other cities, what's not worked, how can we avoid some speed bumps, and then how can we make good decisions on capital improvement planning and doing proper master planning for the city, thinking about how we grow smart while keeping our community small. And what we're known for is being our small town. That it's a true Texas storybook of, we're famous for our Halloween. Everybody does their neighborhoods up. Everybody comes to Grandview to watch a concert in the park. So keeping our community was very important to us. and learning how to incorporate those things while you expand is very important.
You know, Mary, cities and towns all across the nation, their revenue streams are different. What's your main revenue stream in Grandview?
Being so small, we focused on bringing industrial and manufacturing in, and increasing that because their revenue is far greater. It does bring in jobs, but it also helps use the workforce that we are, wanting to use here in our community, in our surrounding area. And by doing that, then that brings more people, which then slowly adds the rooftops, and then the rooftops bring in the retail, and then it just keeps on increasing from there. But the main revenue source is from industrial manufacturing.
And I know you have a business background. How has your business background, assisted you in becoming an effective city council person?
That's a great question. I believe every city council needs a good business person. The background for me, I'm in contracting, construction. I own a commercial HVAC company statewide in Texas. And understanding how construction works, working with developers, other subcontractors, having the knowledge of processes and permitting and the time it takes to get all those due diligence together is vital for a municipality. So as council, we are city manager strong, and having that knowledge helps me work with my city manager, realizing that things don't happen overnight. You can do things too quickly, that doing our due diligence is important no matter what we're looking at, and proper development and planning.
What is the role of a mayor within a city manager form of government?
So the mayor is the smile and wave and the face of the city, and shows up for ribbon cuttings, meets with the city manager to sign off on certain projects that the council votes on. So the council then runs the city manager. The mayor does not actually run the city in the smaller towns. The big cities are mayor strong, which they have all the power. Fort Worth, Dallas, the bigger cities. So in our small towns here, the council is the governing body that then chooses, hires, and runs the city manager. The city manager then runs all operations at City Hall, which is very important. And when you have a great city manager, then your council is stronger for it, and so is your city. It's very important to have a good working relationship with your city manager.
You know, I'm a former city mayor of a small community here in Tennessee, and we still have a city manager form of government. And tell our folks out here, how does the political world work when you have a city manager form of government? Because technically, the city manager is the non-political part of it, and then the elected council is the political arm of it. How do you see that working together?
Well, and to touch on your last question, the mayor, to me, the mayor's most important job is to govern the council itself, bringing us all together, helping us all work together when we have different ideas. And the city manager is very important to giving their opinions and recommendations. They should do all the work, in my opinion, to get background information, do referencing, do some training on their own as secretary, as a city manager, and then bring all that evidence and information and references to the council and to the mayor, and then have that presented so the council can make further better decisions based off of them doing their own homework as well. So the city manager plays a vital role in doing a lot of the legwork for the council.
And how important, Mary, is it for a small community like Grandview to collaborate and partner, say, with county government and state government?
Well, I believe it's very vital. We encourage, especially I encourage our city manager to go to commissioner's court, to work with the county, to know other mayors and councils in our county and surrounding counties. And then when we actually have a legislation day for our county down in Austin, and we include her and anyone in the city director staff to join us, so they have an opportunity to collaborate with other city managers and council to see what's working and not working. If your city manager is not current and not a part of the county and state, then it's very hard to know the rules that change. The legislature, is in session every year, and little minor changes can affect your public works. It affects your police officers, how development is being set, the local control. We all want to try to keep our local control, and that is so vital to a small town community.
Give our listeners a sense of maybe a community project that Grandview has been involved with and that has been very successful, and that a small town actually can make things happen.
Well, I'm not much of an artsy person, and I didn't pay enough attention to it probably in the beginning, but I can tell you art can bring a community together. So in the city of Grandview, one thing we did, our park is where we have concerts, where we have a band come out, but we didn't have a stage. The park was pretty run down. The community needed somewhere to go to, be together and bring them together. So what we focused on was a park project. We redid our tennis courts. We added a pickleball court. We redid our basketball, the children's playground. We built bathrooms that we didn't have before. We took what little money we had and focused on building those bathrooms. So then the mothers and the children have a place to go. And then when we have concerts, we have a place for them to use the restroom. And then we added a stage. And that has, and farmers markets, we've increased our activity there. So those things do not require a lot of money, but if you take what small revenue portions out of your general fund that you can focus on for what's in your town to bring your community together, I think that is your greatest asset. You don't have to always have a lot of money to do it. You just have to have a simple project. And for us, it was our city park. And we have seen so many families come out and join the pickleball and the tennis and playing on the new, our existing playground equipment. We just redid the groundwork for it. One of the other things we did is we noticed a lot of cheer groups and workout groups were coming to the park, but really didn't have a soft landing place. So we took what was like a rubber tire mat and created an outside gym floor, so to speak, like a gymnastics floor. And now all the cheer groups and the workout groups have a soft landing to actually work out on. And we put our city logo and our schools, we're the zebras in Grandview, and we put that there on our play mat, and it's been great right by the pavilion for birthday parties. So just realizing where everybody wants to congregate, that's what we did, and that's what was our main focus, because it was the least expensive route. And on the art side, we had our local young artists from the school, the program that they have, and we just used our resources to have them come and do some drawings, and then we had those put in and incorporated into the park.
This excites me when I talk to someone that lives in a small community and they look at their assets and they take advantage of their assets. And I see many communities, whether it's cities or counties, and they always say, if we could just get a grant, we could do so-and-so. And my response most of the time, Mary, is, grants are good, but they are there to assist you, but it's the local community that makes it work, and it's not the grant itself. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that, because what we all have the idea is, let's go get a grant and get some money. But in reality, most of those grants, especially to the small cities, require matching funds or a percentage down. Our small cities do not have the ability to put up $20,000 or $50,000 in order just to get a grant. So a grant is not all free money, and majority of them do require matching funds or money down. So what we focused on was using our engineering firm here, and then we created it's called a interlocal agreement with a neighboring city that's much larger than us, that has $35,000 plus. So that interlocal agreement allowed us to, at no cost, to use their engineering services because they already had contracts with them. We paid, and I'm, by no cost, I mean we did not have to contract with another engineering firm. The interlocal agreement allowed us to use another city's firm, and then we paid a small portion for their services to help us plan. And engineering firms, really good ones, they have the ability to go look for grants within their company. For example, we just received a $300,000 grant for our park. However, we got it through our engineering firm, and they applied for it. It required no matching funds. And so grants are good when they offer 100% of the money, but it requires a lot of resources in your city office that you don't normally have. And then someone's got to know how to read those and write them and get those. When you can just use the resources you have first to make a first impression to help your community do exactly what you're wanting to be in office for, is bring them together. So use your resources.
Our guest on this podcast is Mary Sarver, the mayor of Grandview, Texas. And we've been talking about how you use your existing revenue and your assets to be successful. And Mary, successful communities, it's a lot like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. And you have the public sector, but how important is the private sector getting involved to being successful in a small community?
Well, the private sector is very important because they don't have, there's a lot of government red tape that you don't have to go through with the private sector. Plus, you have them invest into your community, so then they are invested emotionally into your community. And when you have that, then you have companies that will participate in sponsorships for your booster club at your school, or your football programs, or your chamber. That's how you also grow your chamber, by growing your chamber with businesses that support them. Then it becomes stronger, and then the word gets out. And then I like to very much focus on the private sector. Matter of fact, the industrial manufacturing that we brought in are local people that have had businesses in Dallas, and we help them come to our community and say, why don't you bring it back here? And what's it going to take to do that? And it's pretty miraculous when you start the conversation how much they do like to be a part and be connected to a local community. And they have revenue that really helps by the donations and the sponsorships, the toy drives. They like being involved, and I think we forget that.
You've already mentioned, Mary, how important it is for small towns to get involved with their municipal league, and I know you're very involved with the National League of Cities. Tell our listeners about the National League of Cities and your involvement with them.
I love our Texas Municipal League. When I first got into government, I didn't know anything about municipality law, legal, and how things were supposed to run. And they are a source that's offered to all small cities in every state. So that was a phone call that got me kind of my knowledge together. Once I understood how things worked, the National League of Cities was something I was introduced to, and they're on a bigger scope. And I cannot say enough about the National League of Cities. I have been able to meet other officials in every state that have some of our similar problems, compare our small communities. Recently, we just had the federal summit in Salt Lake City, and they had a board of directors election, and I was elected to the board of directors for the National League of Cities.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very proud of that, because what that really means is not another title. What that means is I have been able to connect with most small cities nationwide. I was chair this year of all small cities nationwide. And from the coast to north to south, everybody's got the same problems, just different environments. And it's amazing to bring so many people together to know who've had a problem and then those who can solve a problem. And putting them all in a room, that's what the National League of Cities has to offer. You actually can walk away with someone who's had those same problems and help you figure out that, like the funding or the infrastructure or where to go look. And it's just been profound.
So the return on investment that Grandview makes in organizations like the National League of Cities, certainly you can tell it's paying off in your community. And many times, Mary, when I go to these conferences, it's that peer-to-peer, that being able to talk to people about those common challenges that really makes the difference.
Yes, sir. I think it's hard in a small town because, it's our taxpayers that pay to get us there. And I never go into them thinking, oh, this is a trip for me, because I have to take off work. It's not a free event for me. And it's important to spend my taxpayer money wisely, but what am I coming back with? But those relationships are absolutely invaluable. I've learned more about, how data centers have worked in other small towns, mistakes they have made that will save us from making those same decisions, how AI is being integrated in some of the other cities, and how, how does that look like in our landscape as we grow and move further in our economic development. But the relationships besides the training and the knowledge is truly incredible. I've called on many states and many other council that it's been nice to pick up the phone and go, I got this going on. What did you say you did, and how did you get that money?
Well, and it does. It makes a tremendous difference. And you brought up an interesting subject in the advancement of technology, and particularly AI. Shouldn't that have a dramatic effect, particularly on small communities, that it helps level the playing field a little bit? Because small cities don't have the huge staff that the larger cities do to do certain things. How do you see the advancement of AI helping a community like Grandview?
The AI is here to stay, and we can't run from it. And I feel like I'm one of those older people now that when computers came out and you didn't want to learn it, and now you have to learn it. So that's where the Municipal League and the National League of Cities is vital, because it's actually been around for over 20 years. To new, it's us. I mean, to us, it's new. But other cities have experienced this, but it's in every facet of the city, from how it affects your police department, how your city manager, we have to govern Chat GPT. You don't want all your staff just getting on and getting all over, using AI to do their writings or programs. We've had to learn what some of that governing is and needs to be within the city hall and city hall operations. So everybody needs to be paying attention. It affects everything we do, and it's going to be another one of those things in our small towns where we need to get ahead of it and learn what's working and not working in other cities. So especially in the data centers, we realize that we need to create some ordinances so we don't fall into some of the loopholes that cost us money that we don't have, that other cities have experienced.
Mary, being a leader in an organization like the National League of Cities, an advocate for small cities, how do you advocate for those small cities, say, to folks on the federal level, so that they don't forget us and know that we play such a vital role in this country?
You bring up a great point, Joe. The local government needs a voice. Local government is slowly trying to be pushed out by the state. And if we lose our local control, then who's going to speak up for us? The National League of Cities has many different areas. One of them is economic development, and I've been involved on that committee for the past 3 years. And what they've done is, for a great example, is create what's called ARPA funds that we've had in the past year. And that provided funds that directly went to every city, that every city could obtain to use for specific projects and infrastructure, water, treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, things that we need that we couldn't obtain on our own. So to answer your question specifically, the National League of Cities has the ability with their directors that their everyday job is to go work with whoever is in government, the president and his cabinet, and in the Department of Intergovernmental Department Affairs. So when we aren't the hands and feet, we don't have to know it all, but they provide the conversation. We tell them what's going on at the local level. They put it all together and they go directly to Congress and say, here's a problem and here's the local voice. And the legislation that's come out of that has been absolutely profound. So we haven't lost our voice, and they listen.
Well, I congratulate you and the National League of Cities for the advocacy on behalf not only of small communities but cities of any size throughout the country, because we've got to keep at the forefront how these local communities are the ones that shape our country, and we need attention, we need funding, and all those things that go with it. Let me ask you in the couple of minutes we've got left, Mary, what do you see as the biggest challenges for small towns over the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
I think it's going to be economic development growth and figuring out how to govern that. I would encourage every small town council to get involved, talk to their community. We set out surveys to our community asking what their hot topics are, what's important to them, to make sure we're focused on the community priorities. And then we go to work having that voice at the state level and at the national level, which is what the National League of Cities provides. And if we forget where we come from, then that's when things the wheels on the bus come off. So as mayors and council, I think the greatest service we can provide is fighting for our local government and being that voice, not all over the board, but specifically for small cities. And National League of Cities does that. They cover, all of America, and 88% of America is made up of small towns. And all large cities started that way too. And sometimes I think they forget how they got there, but they have a lot to offer us as well.
Last question, and I get this a lot, Mary, is how do you promote economic growth and yet keep that small town charm and feeling that so many of us love? How can they coexist?
Again, it goes back to the community planning, capital improvement plans that the city does. So for us in Grandview, we made sure that our community priorities stayed number one. And we do that by making sure that our planning for industrial manufacturing is not in the middle of our community. We're not putting data centers in the middle of our community. We are treating it like it is precious and important to us. And so we expand along the highway on the outer skirts of the town. So all the industrial manufacturing and commercial stays together, that our homes and the neighborhoods that we're putting in and adding in are expanding off around the school and elementary, this whole school ISD center. And so every neighborhood can connect and children can still ride their bikes and play with each other no matter what neighborhood they're in. So I think it's just really keeping the heart of the community and remembering why we all decided to serve in the first place, and then making that expansion not focused on, I'm so excited to bring revenue in, but where you're putting that revenue on the economic development growth scale.
Well, an interesting conversation with Mary Sarver, the mayor of Grandview, Texas. And personally, Mary, I want to thank you for being such a strong voice for our small towns and cities across the country. And I can say to you, keep up the good work, and we appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you, Joe. And I appreciate you giving a voice to the little town of Grandview. But I know as all rural development people in our cities, we care very much about our community and giving a voice to those people who need it the most, from our farmers to our trade workers and beyond. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mary. And I want to remind our listeners that we appreciate your comments or suggestions, and you can email us at ruralstrong@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and have a great day. Thanks for joining us on Rural Strong. If you found this helpful, share it, and follow the show for more insights from rural leaders making a real difference. Until next time, stay rural strong.